مرحبا مشاهدينا في حوارات السياق. فرنسا المحطة الثانية في جولة ولي العهد السعودي محمد بن سلمان الأوروبية بعد اليونان. زيارة تأتي وسط متغيرات وظروف إقليمية ودولية أعادت المملكة إلى دائرة الاهتمام العالمي، تحديدا بعد حرب أوكرانيا وأزمة الطاقة. عموما للمزيد من المتابعة ينضم إلينا من باريس إيمانويل دوبوي رئيس المعهد الأوروبي للأمن والاستشراف. سيد إيمانويل، مرحبا بك معنا.
Hello, it's a pleasure.
محمد بن سلمان في فرنسا وقبله رئيسا مصر والإمارات، هل هناك رابط هنا؟ هل تتداخل الملفات التي ناقشها الزعماء الثلاثة مع ماكرون؟
Well, no, they are complementary. When President Macron hosted the newly elected president of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed, and when he hosted the president of Egypt, he had in mind, of course, the question of Ukraine and, of course, the consequences of the food crisis or the wheat crisis in regards to the sanctions regarding Russia, and, of course, the impact of the war on the capability of stocking and exchanging the wheat from Ukraine. When President Macron will have a working dinner with Mohammed bin Salman tonight, this agenda will be on top of the table, but there will be another agenda, which is, of course, the ongoing situation regarding the security in the Middle East, when it comes to the reconstruction of Syria, of course, when it comes to the aid and the full compliance or the full commitment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France when it comes to, as again, the reconstruction of the port of Beirut. One must not forget that 2 years ago, there was a massive explosion, the 4th of August 2020, and of course, both countries will share this agenda. And of course, as the meeting in Egypt of the Arab League went on, the question of Syria will again be on the table, not to mention the impact also of the Ukrainian crisis on the prices of oil, when we know that after the visit of Joe Biden a few days ago in Jeddah for the Gulf Council meeting, the GCC +3, Saudi Arabia did not totally agree on the necessity to increase its oil production. And of course, this was something that President Macron will ask again to Mohammed bin Salman after Joe Biden has done so a few days ago.
هذه الزيارات جاءت جميعها بعد قمة جدة مع الرئيس الأمريكي. هل باعتقادك تعيد المنطقة ترتيب أولوياتها؟
Not sure they're approaching more to France. I'm sure they're approaching one to each other. That's the first commitment. The GCC +3, namely gathered the 6 GCC countries plus Egypt, plus Jordan, plus Iraq. And this is, again, a wider perspective on the stability of the Middle East when it comes to renewing the relations, the tense relations since 2017 between Qatar and the Quartet, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. When it comes to the question of Yemen, there is a truce that has been signed. It is a fragile truce, but it's still going on. And of course, we must find an issue to the end of the war, which has been lasting for now more than 7 years in Yemen. And of course, the impact of the mutual bilateral agenda when it comes to Libya, again, when it comes to Ukraine, and on a wider perspective and on a more comprehensive point of view, the question of Iran, which is something in which the position of Israel, the position of Saudi Arabia, the position of the countries who have agreed to sign the Abraham's Agreement, namely Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, plus Morocco and Sudan, are on the same agenda when it comes to put more pressure on Iran as we are going towards the new approach of the GCPOA and a new agreement when it comes to the nuclear issue concerning Iran, which will be signed in Vienna maybe in a few weeks.
كيف يمكن وصف العلاقة بين ولي العهد السعودي والرئيس الفرنسي؟
Well, of course, the special relation between Emmanuel Macron and the Crown Prince is not the only special relation that the French president has with a certain number of leaders, which are more or less in its on the agenda, on the top of agenda, and Saudi Arabia is on the top of agenda. Of course, the same relation can be you can compare this to the special relation which President Emmanuel Macron accorded to Mohammed bin Zayed a few days ago, hosting him for a state visit in Paris. I'm not sure that there is a special relation. What is certain is that France, after the United States, is playing let's say, playing the agenda of a more open, more subtle dialogue with Riyadh. Of course, there has been tension concerning this relations, tension a bit less tensed, if I may express myself in that way, between Washington and Riyadh concerning the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi in October 2018. But of course, there's been a sort of frost between the relation between Paris and Riyadh in regards to that affair as well. So it is a relation which has always been very strong. It is not a relation only between the Crown Prince and the French, newly re-elected French president. It's between France and Saudi Arabia, as we are a major arms procurement client to Saudi Arabia when it comes to the artillery that we sold, the Caesar cannon artillery system that we sold, of course, the frigates that we sold, and of course, some of our cooperation, training, mentoring capacity. I have in mind the agreement that we made concerning the training and equipment of the Lebanese army under the auspices of Saudi Arabia.
الاتفاق النووي الإيراني كان حاضرا بقوة في قمة جدة، وهو كذلك على جدول أعمال ولي العهد السعودي في فرنسا. ما الذي يمكن أن تقدمه باريس لطمأنة دول الخليج؟
Well, France has not this capacity because the JCPOA, as everyone knows, is not only about France. It's about the 5 members of the Security Council, plus Germany, plus the European Union. But of course, France is a major player inside the European Union. And of course, besides Great Britain, France has a special point of view on Iran, which may not be exactly the same as the United States, which could not be exactly the same as Great Britain. So when it comes to the accidental point of view concerning the JCPOA, the so-called E3 plus 3, the 3 European members, of course, I mentioned Germany, France, adding Great Britain, even though it went out of the European Union. France has always been very eager to facilitate and mediate between Paris, Washington, and Tehran. This has always been the case with Emmanuel Macron. Do remember that during the G7 presidency of France, France made everything possible to have a meeting, a trilateral meeting between, at that time, President Rouhani, President Trump, and the French presidency. So France is having a sort of mediating, facilitating process concerning Iran, which can be of great help in the stabilization of the diplomatic relations between a certain number of Gulf countries, United Arab Emirates, as well as Kuwait, as well as, of course, Qatar and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which are looking for better, more comprehensive relation with President Raisi of Iran.
بلغة المصالح والاقتصاد المجردة، ما الذي يمكن أن تقدمه السعودية لفرنسا وما الذي يمكن أن تقدمه باريس للرياض؟
Well, I'm not sure it is a equilibrate relations. I'm quite sure Saudi Arabia can offer more to France than France can offer to Saudi Arabia when it comes to economics, when it comes to economy. France is looking with a great interest of the development of the NEOM project, the new city which Mohammed bin Salman wants to launch with great emphasis. We have been advocating for the new touristic dimension of the relations. Al-Ula, for example, is something on which French companies are looking with very much interest. There is in Paris a security nexus around the touristic complex of Al-Ula, as well as the our key architectural or, of course, the dimension of the historical point of view, archaeological cooperation between the two countries. So I would resume that in saying that Saudi Arabia and France are strong partners when it comes to defense, a bit weaker partners when it comes to other parts of bilateral economical cooperation. The French gas and oil companies in Saudi Arabia are weak partners or two weak partners, but that is not the problem, or that is not it's not only the fault, if we can express that way, of Saudi Arabia. There we are in great concurrency with the 7 major who comes from Great Britain, who come from Netherlands, and who come from the United States. We are, let's say, second-hand partners. We can become bigger, but again, the question is not on our side, it's on the side of Washington.
باريس والرياض لهما دور مؤثر في الوضع في لبنان، لكن هل هناك توافق سعودي فرنسي حول هذا الملف؟ هل هما على نفس التردد؟
Well, maybe not, for various reasons. First of all, because the reconstruction process of Lebanon is not only economical, it's psychological as well as political or institutional. And there France has, I think, a very big and important role, as Lebanon is a Francophone country. And as I said in prior perspective, as France has always stood shoulder to shoulder with the Lebanese population and the ones who have experienced, witnessed, and alas been hit by the explosion of Beirut port in August 2020. When it comes to the linkage of the cooperation between Saudi Arabia and France, I think there is a third partner, which is the United States on one side, which is Russia on the other. It could have been complementary when it comes to the reconstruction of Lebanon in the so-called CEDA meetings, which happened in Paris at 2 occasions in 2020 and in 2019. France and Russia were very eager to be strong economical partners of reconstruction. And of course, we know that this has been shattered by the invasion of Ukraine since the 24th of February. But again, I think Riyadh and Paris share the same commitment to help the Lebanese reconstruction process, whether it is on an economical perspective or on a more political or again a more social to societal point of view.
مصادر دبلوماسية أكدت أنه سيتم استعراض خطوات لتشكيل مجلس شراكة استراتيجي سعودي فرنسي. هذه المجالس التي يعلن عنها مع كل زيارة رسمية، هل هي فعالة تخدم علاقات البلدين أم أنها مجرد خطوة دبلوماسية؟
I think it's more declarative than effective, to be honest, because it is not the first time that we so-called the necessity to impulse a strategic dialogue between our two countries, whether we create a council or not, whether there is a strategic dialogue concerning the Ministry of Defense, which is already the case for almost 10 years, or whether we consider that on a diplomatic perspective, we have to have a bilateral or quadrilateral meeting, the ministers of foreign affairs, the Minister of Defense of each country, again, on a 2+2 format. I think it is not new. France has this type of agreements with almost all of the Gulf countries. It has it with the United Arab Emirates. It has it with Qatar. It is now proposing it with Saudi Arabia.
سؤالي الأخير عن الداخل الفرنسي، كيف ينظر الداخل الفرنسي لتنامي علاقات باريس ودول الخليج؟
I think they're not elaborating a lot on it. Of course, everyone is focused on Ukraine. Everyone is focused on the impact of the Ukrainian crisis. And I think the French civil society or the French political leadership is putting everything on the same level of understanding. We need to be more independent than we are now from Russia and China, which are in an adversary mode against us. Who are our partners to work with and to rely upon. Are the members of the Gulf Council, the Gulf Council, the Arab Gulf Council members of GCC on that perspective? Are they on the same agenda? Is Qatar on the same agenda as Abu Dhabi? Is Doha on the same agenda as Abu Dhabi when it comes to that perspective? Is Saudi Arabia fully committed to this perspective when we know that a certain number of the countries along the Red Sea, along the Oman Sea, and along the Persian Gulf are not totally on the same agenda as a certain number of our own agenda when it comes to the stabilization of Libya, for example, when it comes to the end of war in Yemen, when it comes to the way we need to literally address the Iranian crisis, or in the way we have to cooperate, work, or take in consideration the ongoing Turkish agenda when it comes to Somalia, when it comes to Sudan, when it comes again to Yemen, or when it comes to the orientalization of a sort of pivot, which is now more and more linking Moscow, Tehran, and Ankara. Are we still, or are all of the Arab Gulf countries on the same track as we are? When it comes to Iraq, do we think, on the contrary of the United States, that France should be more and more present when the United States are thinking of leaving, or when the new Biden administration is more eager to leave than the former Trump administration? And again, to wrap up and to summarize my thoughts, will the new Biden administration, or the next Biden administration, or the 2 years left Biden administration be on the same track as the European partners when it comes to the necessity to address those issues, and of course more issues when it comes to the containment of Russia, or the fear that China is implicated more and more throughout its Silk Road agenda in the Gulf area.
إيمانويل دوبوي، شكرا على المشاركة معنا في حوارات السياق. مشاهدينا، شكرا على طيب المتابعة. إلى الملتقى.